Good afternoon, friends and colleagues, and welcome to RC Squared, Random Categories with Robert Chang. I'm so excited for this week's episode as I am joined today by Laura Roja, who is the Manager of Education Services at the American Advertising Federation. Later this week, the AAF will be hosting their Ad America event virtually June 5th through June 9th, and rightfully calling it Ad America Adjusted. Now, Laura has played a key role in the planning and the pivoting of one of Ad America's major events, the National Student Advertising Competition, into a virtual format. Now, we're excited to have her join today to really talk through this process and share some of the key takeaways for the entire industry. Welcome, Laura, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Bob. I'm so happy to be here and to be chatting with you.
Now, I would first love to hear a little bit more about the American Advertising Federation and your leadership specifically with the National Student Advertising Competition.
Absolutely. So the American Advertising Federation is a representative of all advertisers. We're the unifying voice for advertising. So whether you're a student, professional, or a corporate member, we have home and resources for you. And then my role within that is specifically education services, so focusing mostly on the student component. We have about 150 college chapters and 4,000 student members every year. And I look at my role as really just being the resource for them to make sure that the next generation of advertising geniuses are set up as best as possible for entering the industry. I love it. It's a wonderful group of students. They really are inspiring every day. So of course that includes the National Student Advertising Competition, as well as our other programs, the Student Advertising Career Conference, our new Campus to Corporate Internship program, and our Ag Camp. And I get to work with our great team on our Most Promising Multicultural Student program as well. So it's a lot of really engaging and exciting and inspirational work, making sure that that next generation is set up as best as possible.
That's incredible work. And I know that a lot of your work with the National Student Advertising Competition really started to ramp up right when the pandemic started to escalate early in March. So I would love to hear, really what steps you took to communicate with your audience and all the different internal and external stakeholders to update them on the status of the event and ultimately to make the best decisions for your audience.
Absolutely. It was certainly not ideal timing, but I don't think it was for anyone this year. We all faced very challenging circumstances, and I'm very proud of all of our volunteers, leaders, and members who were able to come through it with us and make that pivot. So we have about 100 teams competing this year, exactly 102 teams competing over our 14 regional competitions. So our very first, or our most important thing to us was making sure we were having open communication and transparency throughout the entire process. So in early March, we were very closely monitoring the situation. I was on the CDC website, I think hourly, and just watching the case count go up one by one by one. And by the time we realized we needed to have a plan in place, we had about 2 weeks before our first competition was scheduled. So we really quickly pulled together a lot of our invested members, making sure that we talked to Adobe, who was our sponsor this year, making sure that they were comfortable with the competition and our plan moving forward, talking to our National Education Executive Committee, and talking to those district coordinators who run that first level of the competition, that 14 regional competitions, and just making sure that as we were making the plan, they were involved in the communication. They were able to give their feedback and ask their questions so that we weren't just issuing a statement. We were coming together as a community and finding a plan forward. So we really made sure that we were carefully in communication with them when we were making our contingency plan. So everyone had a plan in place, and we then told our teams as well, hey, this isn't necessarily happening yet, but just in case it does, here's our plan. And then about 3 days after we sent that message, it became apparent that that needed to be the plan for everybody. It moved very, very quickly. So again, in that time, we got all of our district coordinators and our leaders on a phone call and said, it looks like this is going to be happening. Let's have an even more in-depth conversation about what this looks like for you. Answered all their questions. We had some of our leadership on the call as well. And just made sure that all of our leaders were comfortable with our decision, had all their questions answered. And we actually changed some of our plans based on their feedback at that time. And then we went out to all of our teams and said, we know you're facing challenging situations. We're going to be moving forward with this competition, and here's how. So we would gave them a lot of information. I'm infamous for my long emails. They got a very detailed email. They got FAQ documents from us, and they had an open door with me. So I had a lot of one-on-one conversations after that communication went out as well. So again, we just really focused on transparency throughout the entire process, making sure everyone was comfortable and moving everyone forward in a way that worked. And we're really proud of everyone for pivoting with us and continuing the competition. We're so proud of the 102 teams who made it.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great story, and really the idea of being transparent with all the various stakeholders is very much a key during these times. And I know that when you were looking to initially bring the event virtual, were there any type of, unique regulations or rules that you had to put into place when running a virtual competition?
Yeah, I mean, we have the unique circumstances. It's a student competition. So when they're on campus, they have access to resources like their production studios, like computer stations with professional level editing software, their faculty resources who are of course still available online, but in a very different way. So as we were starting to look at changing the competition virtually, accessibility was one of the number one things we were considering. So for those students who were still on campus, making sure that their access to those resources didn't give them an edge on the students who had to leave campus and were working at their, from their parents' basements on their old laptops and trying to figure out how to put it all together. So we put a lot of regulations in place to make sure that the accessibility of the competition remained level across the playing field, that we were not building in inherent advantages for certain teams who weren't facing necessarily the same challenges, even though it ended up being everyone basically left campus. We wanted to make sure in our planning we weren't introducing those inequalities.
Oh, that's great, and also very important to consider as just more events in general are going into virtual, not only competitions. Now, it's my understanding that the NSAC competition is actually concluding here at America in early June. I would love to hear kind of what steps you are taking to ensure the highest level of engagement, and also possibly to, prep those presenters who are speaking during the finals as well.
Yeah, absolutely. In terms of engagement, we're really fortunate that we have about 250 students and faculty who are extremely eager to know who won. They're still in the competition, so they'll be tuning in to see where they placed or if they have won the competition. So we're excited to engage that audience. They would be engaged in our in-person event as well. But of course, because of it being online and virtual and living in a virtual environment, we're able to share beyond that audience as well. So the students are absolutely able to engage their audiences. More students than who are normally able to travel are able to engage with it. Schools who are not competing in the finals level competition, but who are at the district or semifinals level, are able to engage. So we have a very engaged audience, and we're kind of looking at it as a silver lining where we can maintain their engagement at the national level, whereas we normally wouldn't have that opportunity because they would have to travel to us to see the conclusion of the competition. So we're excited about that. And then we also have the opportunity, because we don't have to wait for everyone to be in person on the same place, to do some of our planning to have the competition and to prepare ourselves for the finals announcement. We're doing some pre-recorded content with our production team to make sure that after the competition, everyone has high quality materials that they can share to celebrate their accomplishments. So our winning team will have a package. We have all of our final presentations available, as well as a pre-produced winners announcement. So we're getting that long tail of engagement because we have the opportunity to do some pre-production.
No, that's really exciting, especially the almost marriage of a hybrid model, because that's essentially what you had to do with the entire competition in every step of the way. Now, earlier, I know you mentioned Adobe being the title sponsor for the competition. And obviously, in a virtual setting, the level of engagement with the sponsor is much different than, say, in person. I would love to hear what strategies or value propositions your team has been able to provide them in this new format that you may not have normally been able to.
Absolutely. And Adobe, I could not have asked for a better client this year. They have been amazing to work with. They've been extremely supportive of the competition from way back last summer when we started building the case study. And then, of course, when the challenges we started facing this March. They've been really understanding and of course have been a very strong partner in the pivot and have supported the decisions that we've made and have continued to support our students in the competition. One of the benefits of going virtual this year is there's a level of access to the competition that's not normally available. So Adobe was going to send a judge to each of the in-person competitions anyway, but then when we transitioned virtually, they were able to still provide that judging opportunity virtually, but we have all of the presentations recorded. So in addition to the print plans book that they would receive at any time, at any year, they also get to see the live presentation or the pre-recorded presentation of all of the students. So there's just that extra level of student engagement that they're able to get from all 102 teams, whereas opposed they would normally just see the final presentations. So we're excited to offer them more opportunity in that way.
That's great. And if someone listening today would be interested in possibly viewing the finals or even the content that you discussed that the different student groups put forth, would they be able to do that?
Absolutely. We encourage everyone to take a look at the work these great students have put together. They are the future of advertising and the very best that advertising education has to offer. So starting June 5th at noon through June 11th at 5 p.m. Eastern, you can view all 9 of the finalist presentation videos at aaf.org/admerica. And then everyone's invited to join us for the winners announcement as well on Monday, June 8th at noon Eastern at that same URL, aaf.org/admerica.
Thank you very much, Laura, for all of the insights today and leadership throughout the competition. I'm so excited to see this come to fruition later this week at America Adjusted. Thank you for your time and knowledge to share all of these insights and experience bringing this event into the virtual setting. Wishing you the best of success with your event, and I'm very excited to see the finals in a virtual format later this week.
Great, thank you so much. I hope that everyone enjoyed it, and I appreciate your time today and in supporting the competition this year.
Thanks, Laura.